Welcome to Next Africa. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja, and this month we will wade into the continent's oldest active armed conflict, and that's the crisis in Congo. Tensions erupted again this year when the rebel M23 group expanded its control in the eastern part of the country, capturing the cities of Bukavu and Goma, choking off supplies of tin ore, coltan, and minerals key for chip production and mobile phones. The rebels are said to be backed by Rwanda, according to the United Nations, something Rwanda's president, though, strongly denies.
These people, the ones who lead this, and then the other hundreds of groups fighting in eastern Congo, have nothing to do with Rwanda.
Nonetheless, the U.S. and EU have said they would penalize Rwandan officials and members of M23, and we've already seen that financial pressure coming in the form of sanctions. Tensions, though, did ease slightly when a surprise meeting between President Kagame and his Congolese counterpart, mediated by Qatar, saw the two commit to a ceasefire. I'm joined now by Simon Marks in Nairobi and Andiro Oganga out of Kigali. They've both been following the story for us quite closely. Let's just start with you, Simon. Talk to us about history and the history point that we're at right now. Are we just repeating what we've seen over the past few decades when it comes to these two countries?
Well, in many ways, yes, is the simple answer. This whole dispute originates in the mid-90s in the aftermath of the genocide in Rwanda, which kills around 800,000, mostly Tutsi Rwandans, resulting in many Hutus flooding over the border into Congo. And some of those people started a militia groups, a rebellion. And I think essentially the international community, Congo, Rwanda, have never managed to settle this big security threat right on Rwanda's border. And if you listen to President Paul Kagame, he's often talking about the need to secure the rights of Congolese Tutsis inside Congo and Rwandan speakers, but also assure that Hutu militia groups inside Congo are not a threat to Rwandan national security. And then on the flip side, I think Congo's concerns have never been addressed. Really, they see that the M23 Tutsi-led rebel group are simply a violation of their territory and are there to traffic a lot of its immense mineral wealth in eastern Congo out of the country and into Rwanda. And so they see this more as a threat to them economically and also a big threat to its sovereignty. So I think the stalls were set very early on, and that has not changed.
And Simon, just talk about the natural resources that play into this conflict. It's not just in the DRC. A lot of illegal mining is happening throughout the continent. But talk about how the fight over natural resources is at the heart of a lot of conflicts that we are seeing in the region.
Yes. So, I mean, as mentioned, eastern DRC is extremely rich in minerals such as coltan, tin, manganese, and so far we've seen, even prior to the huge explosion of violence in January, the M23 got their hands on the Rubaya mine in North Kivu, which is the region's biggest coltan mine. And UN experts have documented how much of the production from this mine has been trafficked over the border into Rwanda and mixed with Rwandan production. That's something Rwanda obviously denies. But indeed, these allegations were the reason that the European Union, part of the reason that the EU just this week brought down sanctions on Rwanda and also a Rwandan gold refinery. And we've seen this in other places in Africa. In Sudan, there's a lot of supply chain risk for companies dealing with commodities such as gold, where there's a huge trafficking and smuggling of gold out of the country, and also commodities like gum arabic, which is used in everything from Coca-Cola to Pepsi. And we've seen companies having to pay extortion, fees. They've had their rights abuses by militia groups in Sudan fighting a civil war there. And that obviously is huge exposure for consumers and businesses around the world.
Yeah, and Simon, we know that you've been following this closely and have done a lot of reporting on this. I want to turn to Andiro because she's also been on the ground reporting inside some of the mining operations, at least as it pertains to Rwanda. Andiro, talk to us about what you're seeing and how it is affecting the sector more broadly.
Hi, Jen. So the effect is yet to take shape. The numbers are yet to reflect. But what we're seeing is that the Rwandan government is doing everything that it can, one, to maintain calm locally, but also to restore faith and confidence globally. The Rwanda Mines Board sponsored journalists to go to the mines, see the mines, the production of these minerals. And this was in a bid to counter the accusation that is coming from DRC that Rwanda is stealing their minerals, smuggling them into the global ecosystem, and then getting the financial gains that should have gone to DRC instead. And when we were there, I spoke to Ray Powers, who's the CEO of Powers International Limited, and I asked him if he's fazed about the ongoing geopolitical tension and the effect of sanctions, and this is what he told me.
I still see the minerals moving. Nothing seems to have changed. There's an awful lot of politics going on in the world. That's kind of not our business. Our job is to dig with excellence and produce with perfection. If people want to buy, that's up to them.
Jen, that is the general sentiment in the private sector and even in government. I spoke to the Minister of Finance and asked him, does he see this mounting international pressure and also growing sanctions affecting Rwanda? And he said the economy is strong and whatever shocks will come, Rwanda will be able to absorb comfortably in the meantime.
Fascinating sound that you got there. Indira Oganga in Kigali and Simon Marks in Nairobi, thank you both so much for your reporting and for joining us this month. Now, I dug a bit deeper into the global impact of Congo's cobalt ban. I spoke with Thomas Matthews. He's the battery materials analyst at the CRU Group. Take a listen.
Since the ban has been announced and put into place, we've seen that prices of a variety of different cobalt-containing materials have increased. So cobalt hydroxide, which is the material that the DRC produces and has hence been banned from being exported, prices of that have increased by more than 50%. The same for cobalt sulfate, and actually we've seen prices of sulfate reaching the highest levels in the past 18 months. And we've seen significant price rises for a variety of other different materials. We've seen major producers have been forced to declare force majeure, unable to meet contractual deliveries.
So if you think about that then, Thomas, is the intended achievement by DRC, are they likely to achieve their goals, especially if you consider what you're saying, that we're seeing prices start to cool down?
Now is the time that it's being implemented. I guess the key to how successful this ban will be is what happens afterwards. So we've heard that just in the past couple of days that the government is planning to lift the ban after 4 months, given the strong price reaction that we've seen, and implement an export quota system. Exactly how that quota system would work, I think, is probably still being ironed out. But it is likely, I think, to mean that we'll see some sustained price support in the longer term.